Hi, welcome back to another episode of Geopods. I am Preetu Mehershi, research intern at the GEOSTRATA, and I have with me Shivani Chaudhary, a very good friend and a fellow researcher at the GEOSTRATA. Today, in this podcast, we delve deep into understanding the Uzi Afghanistan fashion, the symbolism behind, and the exploration of the culture. Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of empires. This title is derived from the country's thousands of years of history that witnessed changing empires, borders, and names. The land has linked multiple civilizations, culture, and people since it was a passage of trade and luxury goods between the east and west on the ancient Silk Road. So, when it comes to fashion, we have a lot to unpack here. So, Shivani, let us start with you. Please enlighten me and the listeners about the traditional form of clothing of Afghanistan.
Well, thank you so much, Pridu, for that introduction. So, Afghanistan, as she described, is a land of rich history and also diverse culture. And Afghanistan also boasts a clothing history that is as vibrant as its culture. It has influences from Central Asia, the Middle East, and beyond that, Afghanistan's clothing is also a rich tapestry of colors, fabrics, and styles. So when it comes to men's fashion in Afghanistan, the main outfit is the perahan tunban, so which consists of loose fitting trousers and are also a long tunic. This also resembles often this knee length, provides comfort and also an ease of movement in the country's varied climate. So, going back to Afghan's women's clothing is also characterized by a long, loose fitting dress, which is made from light fabrics, and this is often adorned with vibrant cultures and intricate embroidery. So these dresses are typically features detailed stitching, mirror work, and also embellishment such as gold threadings, particularly for special occasions and weddings. Different ethnic groups in Afghanistan, such as the Pashtuns, Tajiks, and Hazaras, have also very distinct clothing style that reflect their cultural heritage. Now, for example, Hazara women often wear colorful dresses with unique patterns, while Pashtun women may favor something such as like the heavier fabrics and more elaborate designs. So these regional variations showcases the diversity of Afghan culture and the importance of clothing in expressing one's cultural identity. Traditional Afghan clothing is more than just an attire. It serves as a medium for cultural expression and also an identity. So the garments, which are often handmade with skills which are passed on through generation, emphasizes the rich artistry of Afghan women in textile craft. Each piece of clothing often tells us a story which reflects the wearer cultural background, social status, and also the personal history. By understanding these garments, we gain a insight into the social fabric of Afghanistan and also showcases how clothing can also reflect a broader cultural narrative and an individual identity.
Okay, interesting take. I particularly see embroidery as an act of resilience and bravery for the women. Let's talk about the Khamak embroidery from Kandahar in Afghanistan and understand why I said so. Khamak is basically a type of counted stitch embroidery. The patterns are usually symmetrical and geometric. Now, this is a very highly skilled craft. It requires designing and stitching complex patterns using a variety of colored threads. Afghani women, who have always been the worst sufferers in the country's long years of wars, changing empires, and a strongly patriarchal Pashtunwali society, have clung to this complex but beautiful embroidery technique as a ray of hope and whatever little freedom that they could afford. Khamak embroidery has served as a form of self expression and creativity for women. When the war and patriarchy strived on taking everything away from women, the embroidery has always belonged to the women.
Now, that's a really interesting trick. I particularly see embroidery as how it also acts as a spirit of resilience and creativity. Now, it's very fascinating to also think how embroidery also runs parallel to a broader narrative in Afghan culture, especially during the golden age of fashion in the 1960s. Um, so the 1960s were a truly transformative time for Afghan culture. So this decade is often referred to as a golden age, which was marked by a vibrant fashion sense that reflected the social political changes happening in the country. So, looking back at the 1960s, before the long dreadful war and also before the Taliban takeover. So Afghanistan had a very different life, spirit, and a name for itself. The Afghanistan that we know of in the present is very contrary to what it was in the 1920s, where women had the right to vote. So the Afghanistan government under King Zahir Shah initiated a series of reform aimed at modernizing the country, which included education, promoting education and women's rights. This period also saw an increase in Western styles and ideas as young Afghans embraced the modern fashion trends, including the miniskirts, tailored suits, and also other Western attires. So, the 1980 was a very pivotal time for women's empowerment in Afghanistan. Women began to break free from traditional roles, pursuing education and career in different fields, including fashion, design, and marketing. So, this newfound freedom allowed women to express themselves through freedom, leading to a unique blend of traditional Afghan garments and also modern Western style. So, women like Safia Tarji also emerged as influential designers, showcasing their work in international fashion magazines like Vogue. So, Tarzi's designed combined classic Afghan elements with also contemporary fashion, which kind of symbolizes a modern fusion that resonated with the aspirations of Afghan women. So Tarzi feminized the classic turban and also waistcoat to pair it with the contemporary western skirts, stockings, and the boots, which blurred the boundary between the feminine and the masculine, fusing the western and the oriental patterns with excitement. And this fashion boost also benefited the Afghanistan's economy as Afghanistan's biggest fashion export, famous goatskin coats and the trousers, which became highly wanted by the American women, also helped the country's nation.
Okay, damn. Isn't this so interesting? I mean, it's very sad as well that many skirts in Afghanistan sound like a very illegal combination in the present scenario. But this is so crazy as well that Afghanistan had so much history and how this variation and influence was so openly reflected in their clothing styles, right? And do you know it wasn't just Afghanistan getting influenced, but the world has been inspired a lot by the Afghans too. Are you aware that the Beatles, the English rock band, wore the Afghani coats in the 60s and the pop culture world was shook? I mean, the coats originate from Afghanistani city of Kanzi and they're known as pushtins. They had floral and geometric designs and were made from the skin of karakul, which is basically a long sociology of celebrities and the copy effect of their course. And wow, the pushtins were world famous as well.
So, as we come towards the end, so let's wrap up today's episodes. Let's quickly reflect on how Afghan's women's expressive and beautiful clothes served as a source of inspiration for the bohemian aesthetics for the world. The tribal and the nomadic motifs created by the people on the seasonal path of travel were reflected on their textiles. So the women wore silver jewelries with amulets, distinctive capes, and also fabrics of red, green, and black. The fashion trends that shook the world once is now forgotten by its own land. Thank you so much.